Assalamu alaikum everyone. First of all, I would like to apologize, but थोड़ा सा देर हो गई क्योंकि सरीना पहुंचना it's very difficult जब 3-4 detours आपको लेने पड़े. So मेरे साथ भी कुछ ऐसा हुआ. So I'm extremely sorry for this. And I would like to thank Population Council and Dawn Media Group and all the panelists here for the powerful discussion and comprehensive deliberations. And obviously, this is an important space where we are all talking about why women, empowering women and their choices matters. So at the National Commission on the Status of Women, I'm deeply honored to be part of this conversation that lies at the heart of the mandate of National Commission, Women's Autonomy Agency, and the right to make choices without fear or barriers. So for me, empowering women choices, why it matters. So I was just going through the constitutional obligations, and the Pakistan Constitution empowers women through Article 25, which guarantees equality before the law and prohibits sex-based or gender-based discrimination. Article 34, which mandates full participation in all national life. Article 32 for the representation in local government. 37, ensuring humane conditions for women workers, maternity benefits, and Article 25(3), allowing them special measures for the women and children. And additionally, Article 51 and 107 provide reserved seats for women in the parliament, in the legislatures. Then why empowering women choices matters? As the panelists have already pointed out, there are so many things that we need to see. We see that and understand that Pakistan stands, apart from all these equality and non-discrimination constitutional obligations, Pakistan stands as a demographic and socio-economic crossroads. And empowering women choices, it is not just a soft issue. It's a constitutional obligation. We all know about it. A human rights commitment under CEDAW and SDGs, as already pointed out, and an economic necessity for growth, stability, and demographic management. When girls and women can choose their education, work, mobility, marriage, and health decisions, entire communities become more resilient, productive, and peaceful. And this is not only about individual empowerment, it's a nation building. Despite progress, the pathways for women remain heavily restricted due to the cultural barriers limiting women's choices, which may include violence and threats of violence that limit their mobility and public participation, economic dependency due to low job opportunities and unpaid care burdens, limited access to sexual and reproductive health services and information, digital divides and online harassment, including technology-facilitated gender-based violence that silence women, patriarchal norms embedded in the family, workplace, judiciary, and state institutions. These structural barriers are not accidental. They are systematic and require systematic transformation. Emerging trends that NCSW is observing are the surge in gender-based violence, technology-facilitated gender-based violence cases, where women are blackmailed, shamed, or punished for asserting independence. Deep judicial misogyny and insensitive remarks when women challenge patriarchal norms. Low representation of women in the leadership, from local government tiers to the policy making and the corporate boards. A widening economic gap, particularly for young women and rural minorities and differently abled women. Rising vulnerabilities for single women, widows, adolescents, and gender minorities. These are signals of society struggling to accept women as equal citizens. And NCSW, with its current work and commitments, is actively working to shift the systems, not just symptoms. Our current focus includes review of personal laws, which may include Muslims, family and Hindu, national and youth, adolescents policies, and advocacy for standardizing legal age at 18 years across the provinces. And we have laws for harassment, domestic violence, women's property rights, child marriages restraint, and we are also leading a national action framework for technology-facilitated gender-based violence, finding out the institutional gaps and protection pathways through development of the framework. So at this point, NCSW is becoming more assertive in its watchdog role, pushing for the accountability, data, and gender-responsive policy making. Women choices require enabling environment, and a lot of discussion has brought us many points where we need quality education, marketable skills for girls and women, safe, dignified spaces, equal pay, zero tolerance for harassment, mobility, safe public spaces, social protection systems for the women and the workers across board, digital rights. So we need to call for a collective action empowering women choices, which cannot be outsourced to women alone. It requires state institution to uphold rights with full accountability, private sector to ensure decent work, safety and representation, families and communities to move from control to support, policy planners to include women in all forums, not just as beneficiaries but as decision makers. And these are the urgent requirements that we need to take care about. Empowering women choices is not just about guaranteeing them permission, it is about guaranteeing rights. And Pakistan's future depends on dismantling the structures that restrict half of its population. So we are committed to challenge the discriminatory institutions, driving legal and policy reforms, ensuring digital and physical space, and amplifying women voices in all national policies and processes. So with this, I would just like to comment and take 2 or 3 minutes on the closing remarks from the panelists. I think this is the time that we need to recognize the women as the workforce. We are counting the women, we need to count their work and provide them agency, provide them social protection. Economic and social development is the key to their development. In order to bring the women to the decision making, through awareness and capacity building, it's important to focus on the leadership development at the local level, at the community level, and obviously to strengthen the local government system as a third tier of the government and declaring it, giving it a constitutional cover also, that the local government should be the third tier of the government, where we all know that all these things that were discussed regarding the health, population, everything is related to women, her agency, and it is the community work. We need to have a bottom-up approach. We need to ensure that women are included and they're in true service with their agencies at all levels. And it should start from the bottom. And let women decide from themselves. Community-led accountability systems, one of the panelists that mentioned here, I think this is an important thing. We need to develop transparency mechanisms at the local level. We need to have accountability systems and bring women to the forefront from the community, from within the homes, and to the national platforms. So with this, I thank you all.
Thank you, Madam Ame Leila Azhar.